Horror is one of my favorite genres in gaming. From intense or bleak atmospheres, hair-raising audio and visuals, all the way to downright creepy and bizarre imagery, I believe that scary games have the best sense of just straight-up emotion for the player to go through and feel, without the need for a super involved narrative. For today's showcase, we'll be taking a look at Ill, a first-person horror game that I remember seeing the original video that was showing off its enemy destruction a really long time ago. But until the most recent GameRanks video, I almost completely forgot about this game. I'll keep this pretty short and sweet, but I wanted to go over something that not a lot of people have been mentioning in their coverage of the game, because I kind of did a little bit of research if this was worth even talking about, and I think I do have something to say, so stay tuned. To get the basics though, Ill is being developed by the new Clout Studios, a 4-man team who previously made mobile games under the banner of Woof Games, or Wolf Games, I'm not really sure. Though they stated that they always wanted to try to strive for something bigger, and it seems to be that this is that step. But there are some caveats to that. And that's where it takes us to the game's Patreon, as that's where it's being funded. Here you can pledge anywhere from $3 to $200 a month, and get early access to some new stuff that will eventually be shown off to the public for marketing, as well as your name in the credits of the game once you've pledged at least $30. There's nothing inherently wrong with the Patreon itself, that's not the issue, but there is an important note that on the long-term goals on the Patreon, it is to expand the team and make the game their full-time jobs. So currently, this isn't what they're working on full-time. Very important to note. We can't expect that, but it is something important to note for how long this game may take. But you may be thinking to yourself anyways, well, hey, I've seen some trailers, the game looks good, how is it so far away? And that's where we need to look at the game itself, because these trailers are more of engine mock-ups with gameplay concepts and assets than anything truly worth noting, because it is more of like a vertical slice, if anything, but more likely just in-engine footage. And though this isn't going to necessarily be completely accurate to the final product, it will be representative of planned features and assets. So let's jump right in and take a look at these trailers. First off, the game is being developed in Unreal Engine 5, and that should help to make the advanced physics goals of interactive environment, active ragdolls, dismemberment, and real-time body transformations a much easier thing to achieve. And from what they've shown off, it's very clear that the vision of this game is going to be very body horror and very horrific. And I think that's going to work really well to set it apart from most horror games, in my opinion, though games like Scorn kind of take a more uneasy, eerie approach to it, so I'm really excited to see how that turns out. Now, I can't say much for how the destruction and transformations will actually turn out, but they really nail the ragdolls when it comes to shooting in the hallway, and I think that's going to be really great. The destruction itself, when showing off that the arm regrows, or like how the body transforms into a much larger force, really does lend to the spookiness of it. And if they want to create an in-world boss-type enemy, this is the best way to do it. Just have normal guys just sprout up into huge bitches. But also, one thing I wanted to notice here for future planned things is that notice the head tracking on this guy as he checks on his buddy that just got shot down. Immediately after, we get some enemy interaction with the environment, grabbing weapons, and we actually do see that a few times, and it's really interesting that they may prioritize hitting you with something more than just their fists if they feel like they're unmatched. Notice these are only ever solo enemies. When there's more than one, they just run at you trying to clobber you. So that could be an AI proof of concept as well, which would be really interesting. Though most intriguingly, when this enemy here dies, it shows a parasitic worm kind of leaving his body that the player seemingly wants to try to take out. This is what maybe manipulates the puppets of corpses to even transform them. To me, this gives off really heavy mixes of like The Thing with John Carpenter, especially the body horror and, you know, the idea of it being like a host, except the character's already dead, but also a little bit with the worm itself with Inside, one of my favorite indie games of all time. We also have it confirmed that there will be many types of enemies, including mini-bosses that have been teased, and you see some different variations in the trailer, but as for the player, we have a little bit of a moveset going on here, and nothing too crazy yet, but we've only had a couple of little trailers. For instance, we've got the shotgun blast that we have, the kick, and collecting ammo for as far as game mechanics go. All pretty standard for survival horror. And same goes for the weapons, as we only really have a revolver and a shotgun so far. As for the plot, we do hear the protagonist speaking to someone who he names as Mike on the radio, and that's implying that there will be a story, but according to the Patreon itself, there will be an easy to understand story with shocking discoveries and no psycho trips or ghosts or any weird flashbacks or things like that, which I really appreciate because sometimes that just gets a little played up and it really takes me out of the horror a lot of the time. But really that's all we have right now. The most recent activity for the game was a trailer at the Future Games Show just a few months back, but hopefully we'll get new content sooner rather than later. I know a lot of people don't think this game is real, and you know, if it's not real, much like the day before, I really don't care, if it's not real. I mean, this proof of concept has been turned into a full game, which they confirmed that the initial trailer, or whatever you want to call that video, was a proof of concept, nothing more. And that's why I've been talking about this whole thing as kind of the same way. But until we get to see some solid, true, full-length gameplay, I'll be a little skeptical of the game until that point. If this game is vaporware, it's not real, who cares? You're not the one wasting money on it. Okay, you get excited. Cool, now you know what you want out of a real game to come some point. But either way, when those updates do come from Clout Games, you'll be able to find them here on this channel, along with many other indie games that I'm going to be covering from now on. I've already got my finger on the pulse of games like The Outlast Trials, Sons of the Forest, games like that, Atomic Heart even, games that we'll be releasing. You can kind of get an idea of my wheelhouse at this point. Survival horror, survival games, and thrillers. I love that stuff. So if you're interested in any of that, go ahead and subscribe, and I really appreciate you, and thank you so much for watching this video. Bye.